Valour FC head into the 2025 season off the back of yet another year not qualifying for the Canadian Premier League playoffs. But this side still showed significant improvements under the manager in Phil Dos Santos, and that this club is moving in the right direction. Yes, they had a season of two halves, where that first season starting off very poorly, with multiple games on the road, and it just didn't go their way. But that second half of the season was very exciting for Valour FC. Yes, not scoring an abundance of goals, but still getting results, still moving in the right direction, and even made somewhat of a playoff push towards the end of the year. And yes, they still finished in 8th place at the bottom of the Canadian Premier League on 28 points, but they won 7 games, drew 7, as well as losing 14. But this side managed to score 31 goals, concede 42, which was, of course, one of the worst in the Canadian Premier League, and I expect that to change in 2025. But the goal difference was a negative 11, and their two top goal scorers were Jordan Schweibel and Sean Hundle. And this side going into 2025 will look very exciting. But in 2024, it was a year of two halves. And I expect they will carry that form from the later half of the season under Phil Dos Santos into 2025. Because this side is rolling into 2025, showing an identity, showing that they're playing the right sort of football, and they're building a culture. Because they did a lot of right things in this offseason as well. They didn't ship out and make true major key changes to this squad. They didn't look to blow up the team and majorly rebuild it. They didn't lose any key players. Yes, they lost one, but this side was able to keep a large chunk of this team, all of their most important players that were building that chemistry with Phil Dos Santos towards the end of the season. And when you're able to do that, you're now able to move into 2025 and build that chemistry, continuing to build the structure and foundation around what Phil Dos Santos wants to play, and we'll see a more exciting Valour FC into 2025. And that is due to the offseason. And their offseason is something I'm absolutely here for, and I'm going to say was my favorite offseason in the Canadian Premier League. Yes, Halifax Wanderers brought in a lot of young, exciting talents, but they still lost a lot of key players to their squad. But what Valour FC has done to their side has immediately, for me, made them a playoff contender. The side has revitalized the team, has brought in key players such as Rocco Romeo has come in from Vancouver FC. We've seen Zachary Fernandez come in from Halifax Wanderers. Gianfranco Fascineri has come in from Windsor Lancers. Seen Elias Himeras come in from York United as a goalkeeper, as well as Bruno Figueiredo, a Portuguese central midfielder, and some younger Canadian talent, which I am very excited for, in Miles Morgan from Vancouver, as well as Eric Pop. Two young Canadian talents, both 19 years old, with a lot of excitement and a lot of hype around them, which will bring a huge boost to this Valour FC side. But another CPL player is Chris Twardek. And Valour FC brought in a lot of quality and players who are looked at throughout their position as the best in the Canadian Premier League. For me, Rocco Romeo is a fantastic centre back. He is tall, physical, strong, great in a challenge, and is a great aerial threat as well, and will bring so much leadership into this Valour FC back line. As well, you bring in Zachary Fernandez, one of the best right backs arguably in the Canadian Premier League. And he joins alongside Temi Antonoglu, which is going to be the best fullback pairing in the Canadian Premier League in 2025, and mark my words, that is going to be a very exciting duo. But then you look at as well, bringing in young Canadian talent. They addressed some depth, bringing in some more depth within the midfield, as well as some exciting U21 talent. This was a perfect offseason from Valour FC. And yes, their key departure was, of course, Jordan Schweibel, as well as a lot of depth pieces that left this Valour FC side, and the main player that left was, of course, Jordan Schweibel. Like I said, tied for the leading goal scorer last season with Sean Hundle. But I do believe the most important player they're able to keep a hold of was Sean Hundle over those two, because I think he brings so much to this locker room. And yes, Jordan Schweibel would have as well, but for me, Sean Hundle is a game changer, and he is very exciting for Valour FC to keep a hold of heading into 2025. And losing Jordan Swibel will still be a big hit, but I expect Eric Popp to be able to come in and hopefully bring some goals alongside Miles Morgan and Chris Twardek. But this squad for Valour FC immediately puts them in the playoff conversation. When you look at their squad, it is filled with depth, it is filled with quality, and all across it, their starting 11 could be argued as one of the best in the league now if they play up to their potential and up to their level. This side has, for me now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the best back line if it lives up to their potential in the Canadian Premier League. When you look at their fullbacks, you have Temi Antonoglu, who at the age of 23 has a very good chance of having another good season heading off to Europe. A young Canadian left back, paired with Zachary Fernandez, both 23 years old, both at their heights and hitting their prime and playing some great football in the Canadian Premier League throughout their career. A great back too, in Rocco Romeo, and next to a young Canadian who's 22 years old, heading into the league in Gianfranco Fascineri, and I have a lot of excitement for those two in the back line. A 25 and 22-year-old Canadian. Moving to the midfield, they have so much depth, so much excitement, so much leadership, and it's very exciting to see how much they've addressed the midfield depth. And moving up front, yes, they don't have loads of strikers, but they got two. Sean Hundle, 25 years old, proven in the Canadian Premier League, brought 7 goals last year as their top goal scorer, as well, bringing in Eric Popp, have Kean Williams there, and also Chris Twardek. This is a very exciting Valour FC squad, and I absolutely love this team on paper, and hopefully it transitions to the pitch, because what Phil Dos Santos was cooking at the end of the season, I expect to translate into this season, and having a more depth, exciting team is a lot of fun. I expect my standout player, guys, and I'm going to call my standout player to be Sean Hundle. Once again, the top goal scorer from last season. They're going to need goals. They're going to need to score more from last season as well. And I'll pair him alongside Rocco Romeo as the two standout players for the squad heading into 2025. They have to score more goals, but most importantly, have to keep the ball in the back of the net a lot better. One of the worst sides at conceding goals last season in the Canadian Premier League, which speaks for itself, which is why they blew up that back line, brought in fresh faces, kept some key players, and made it a lot more exciting. So Rocco Romeo and Sean Hundle are my two standout players, and alongside them, I'm going to say Miles Morgan will be my most exciting and breakout player for Valour FC, which will be very exciting to see how Miles Morgan can kick on and translate his performances to the Canadian Premier League and to a senior league, which will be very exciting to see for the young Canadian. But as we move on to my standing predictions, I do believe Valour FC will make their first ever Canadian Premier League playoffs, as I believe this side will finish in 4th place. This Valour FC side has so much potential, so much excitement, and it's about time they had playoff football and playoff soccer in Winnipeg. It's deserved. Phil Dos Santos deserves this. The way they built this squad up, the way they've kept this team together, the trust they have in Phil Dos Santos. He's a very good manager, and I really like the way he's built this team. And it could do some damage in the playoffs as well. If they have a run going into the playoffs, this team has a very legitimate chance to win the Canadian Premier League, in my opinion. And there's 4 teams that I think could all go out and win the Canadian Premier League this year, and that is why I love this league so much. The quality, the squad depth, the managers, this is a fun league, and I absolutely love what this Valour FC side, squad, manager are building here. And it will be a lot of fun to see what they can do in 2025. But I have Valour FC finishing in 4th, making a run in the playoffs, and possibly, potentially, being an outside Cinderella story in the playoffs. Guys, let me know your thoughts and where you think Valour FC will finish in the Canadian Premier League. Give me your guys' predictions for Valour FC. Who do you guys think is their best signing, and what do you think about their new squad, and will they finally make the playoffs? Hit that like button, drop a sub button, hit that sub button, guys. Let's continue to move to 600 subscribers. The support is always incredible, as always, and I really appreciate the positivity around the Canadian Premier League season previews, as well as the CPL content and Canada content. I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.